Hey everyone, I'm Justin the Ninja, and we are back with some a little more different. I'm actually, well, one thing, in one sense, it's going to be something familiar for those of you who've been on the channel for a few years now, but it's also new if you haven't seen this react type of thing from me before. I'm going to be bringing back some of the reaction videos, and even trying out to lifestyle videos in the future too. But I'm going to be doing a gaming related reaction, and this is History and Unused Content Part 1 for the video game Resident Evil 4. By the way, if you guys did not know, Resident Evil 4 is a great game. I really love it. In terms of the original game, it's my favorite all time. I beat it on multiple platforms already. I am very excited to play the remake whenever I can get my hands on it. And yeah, just another thing before we continue the reaction. For those of you that have, on the occasion, seen past pictures of me possibly, and compare now to them, if you guys can see, that's right, I finally got a haircut. Well, I also had one back in December, but I got another one last night, so yeah, my hair is much more manageable, but honestly, I highly doubt I'll ever go any shorter than this if I ever get any haircuts in the future. But yeah, without further ado, I'm sorry to be rambling so much. Let's full screen this and begin.
A beloved classic and one of the best Resident Evil games to date. Resident Evil 4, a game that spans multiple generations and numerous consoles. Considered by many one of the best games ever made, in fact. But
definitely.
The game had a deep history of constantly changing, this leading it to have 4 prior builds before coming to what we know, 2 of which even spun off into their own games, and all leading into drama around a failed GameCube exclusivity deal. A phase that sets it so far apart from the final game that many even call it
just making sure everything is recording good.
In this 2-part special, we shall look back on the history and beta unused content of
like that. That right then and there that I just briefly showed, that beta design for Ashley. That beta design for Ashley in the original is what inspired her redesign in the remake with that extra outer jacket. So yeah, that's actually really neat. That they actually took some unused ideas from the original, put it in the remake. Like, far as I know, the enemy you encounter in the remake, the enemy with the hammer and he has a cow head, he's based on an unused concept, from what I hear. That's really neat that some of that went from unused to used in the remake. That's neat. Anyways, I'm so sorry for rambling. Let me continue.
of Resident Evil 4. Following the near end of Resident Evil 2's development in late 1997, plans were in place for several new Resident Evil games. One being rendered as a true sequel, featuring Claire Redfield, one of the 2 protagonists of Resident Evil 2. The other being a spin-off entry called Resident Evil 1.9, featuring Jill Valentine of Resident Evil 1. But in addition, another Resident Evil was planned to portray the soldier Hunk from the 4th survival scenario of Resident Evil 2 on a cruise ship.
Alrighty then.
Alternate sequel to Resident Evil 2, all planned for the PlayStation 1, except for the true sequel that was being made for the Dreamcast. But there was one problem.
In which this planned sequel for the Dreamcast got reworked into Code Veronica, from what I hear. I never played it, but that's what I heard. Now, about the Hunk part, I don't fully remember that, so that's why I treated that like something new. So, yeah.
Problem. Sony had bartered for the limited rights of the Resident Evil 3 name for its own console already. This posed a problem for Capcom, as the true sequel, which was being made for the Sega Dreamcast, couldn't be called that. At that point, the alternate sequel was to be given that title instead, while the Dreamcast game was now simply titled as Resident Evil Code Veronica. The
Thought
game
so.
was to take place this time on a cruise ship with Hunk, being caught in a viral outbreak while on a mission to retrieve the G-Virus. This setting was being made as a means to keep the series fresh after exploring a mansion and the city as its setting. However, by mid-1998, the Sony PlayStation 2 was revealed. This put pressure on Capcom on the idea of releasing this
Uh-oh.
sequel so close to the PlayStation 2's launch due to how far behind it was in development, as it could kill its sales. As such, the series creator and producer Shinji Mikami was tasked with pushing the game to the PlayStation 2. Hideki Kamiya, who was the director of this alternate sequel and also the director of Resident Evil 2, followed suit with this push to the next generation hardware. However, instead of continuing the same story, it was scrapped altogether as Hideki Kamiya.
I don't know who that character is in this game that they're showing in this footage, but that shirt plus harness combination, because Leon has a similar looking harness in Resident Evil 4, which holds things like his knife holster. Yeah, it looks similar to Leon's shirt and holster combo. That's interesting.
Kamiya wished to start over with the idea of utilizing the PlayStation 2's hardware for the story of this Resident Evil 3 game. But with this game restarting development as of mid-1998, it would mean that it could take a while for a main entry to hit the market. As a result, Capcom instead rebranded Resident Evil 1.9 as Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. And so the brainchild of Hideki Kamiya is now officially going to be called Resident Evil 4. The new Resident Evil 4 was officially announced to exist to the public by Shinji Mikami in December of 1999, along with its development for the PlayStation 2. The team started to plan out the potential of this new game, with Code Veronica's story already somewhat exploring the inner workings of the Umbrella Corporation, the company that had plagued the cast in the series up to then. An idea was being made to further expand on it by directly tackling the family that runs the company, the Spencers. The story was being penned by Noboru Sugimura, who wrote the critically acclaimed Resident Evil 2, and it featured a story that involved the protagonist Tony Redgraves, a police officer who was seemingly an invincible man with superhuman strength and intellect, all of which was attained due to the progenitor virus by Umbrella's biotechnology, a virus believed to be millions, if not billions of years old. The story would involve Tony uncovering the mysteries of his character that would lead him to Malay Island, the home of the Umbrella facility. This would eventually lead into the revelation of Tony being the son of Oswald E. Spencer, the founder of Umbrella, as well as a plotline featuring Tony's twin brother, Paul Redgrave. The major catch for all this, however, was that Hideki Kamiya wanted Tony and the game to be a cool and stylish action game instead. The departure went as far as to get rid of the fixed camera angles and the pre-rendered backgrounds that the series had been known for, as it just would not look cool enough for Tony Redgraves on screen. In fact, he was designed to have a strong appearance dressed in red and black and employed a heroic look with his trench coat. To top that off with not only wielding regular firearms, but also demonic weapons, all in an attempt to make the player feel even cooler when wielding them against the enemy. For inspiration, the team visited Europe to study Gothic architecture through Spain, England, and Welsh castles, all in order to build the maps of the game. Of course, the team soon took notice of how much of a departure this was from regular Resident Evil convention. This even included series producer Shinji Mikami, who felt it had strayed too far off course from being a survival horror game. Eventually, Mikami...
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. That was kind of a very big stray from what you would normally consider to be truly Resident Evil, and yeah, from what I hear, that's when they reworked this game into Devil May Cry, and then they started the concept and development over again. So yeah.
Mikami convinced the staff and Hideki Kamiya to make this into a brand new franchise instead. And so this version of Resident Evil 4 was now rebranded as Devil May Cry. With the game now being its own series, Tony Redgraves became daunting. He was now written as a half-demon and was incredibly strong and invincible due to his demonic powers. And seemingly, Paul Redgraves became Virgil, or in this case, Milo Angelo. The rest of the cast stayed the same, save for some redesigns, especially the female lead Trish, who had many designs from rather refined to something a lot closer to the final DMC design. Meanwhile, Dante's parents and any plots around the Umbrella Corporation were written out entirely for a more demonic story about the Sons of Sparta. With that, many of the enemies that did appear in the build also did appear in Devil May Cry, but prior to that, they had many ties to the Resident Evil mythos too, such as the Blades, which were to be a hunter variant. This cut G-Crow, that was to be a G-virus infected crow, and undead humans, as with series tradition, except even more monstrous. Many of the others were cut altogether. And so, with Resident Evil 4 becoming Devil May Cry, development had to restart again in 2001. This time with designer Hiroshi Shibata taking the director chair. Despite Sugimura's story becoming Devil May Cry, he was brought back to write the story of Resident Evil 4 again, and this time, one that was much more in line with previous entries. However, Sugimura kept a lot of the major plot points from that take, including the Spencer Castle and the progenitor virus. The protagonist this time being the return of the Resident Evil 2 protagonist, Leon S. Kennedy, who had since been
Leon.
specifically within an elite anti-Umbrella team, participating in raiding the Spencer Castle, where Umbrella's headquarters are located. The operation, however, goes in the wrong direction as the team encounters a new BOW called the Black Fog. Surprisingly not made by Umbrella, but by their competition, HCF, which is run by the serious antagonist, Albert Wesker, as a means of an attack on Umbrella, and with this anti-Umbrella team getting caught up in their...
Huh, so that basically reveals what the name of what that rival organization was to Umbrella right there in that concept. Huh, so now we know what the name of that organization is.
Leon in this process is the one sole survivor, but gets infected with a retrovirus. As such, Leon's battle is to survive and resist mutation while exploring the castle. In his exploration, many of Umbrella's secrets are revealed, amongst which is Leon finding a girl who was being experimented on and protected by a BOW dog she could control and would end up joining as a second playable character. Along with those, further secrets are explored, including the remains of an ancient underground civilization where the progenitor virus is isolated within its superhuman king. This all pointing to how Umbrella was just a cover for Oswald Spencer as an attempt to utilize the progenitor virus to achieve immortality. The Leon on this build looks quite evolved from his Resident Evil 2 build by sporting his famous leather coat and black...
Yeah, and this is another thing from the remake that another thing from the beta that carried to the remake is Leon's jacket design right here. That's actually really cool, actually.
clothing, looking very similar to his final take, but at this point, his coat had a rather distinct puffy collar as opposed to the final games. In addition, it appears further remnants of Kamiya's stylish build did stay here, as the use of 3D backgrounds as opposed to pre-rendered ones were now a mainstay. While the game was initially being built to be ported to other consoles down the road, Shinji Mikami had plans to make this game a Nintendo GameCube exclusive. Mikami's view on the PlayStation 2 at the time were that Sony was focusing less and less on gaming due to the incorporation of the DVD functionality. As such, Mikami wished to support Nintendo as they not only were making a gaming-only machine, but even using proprietary mini-discs, the opposite of regular video DVDs. With development shifting to the GameCube, developers were entering unfamiliar ground and had a tough time as a result. Nintendo did, however, assist them in learning the development tools, something that bolstered Mikami's support for the company. Concurrently, the old cancelled Resident Evil 0 from the 64 disc drive and a remake of Resident Evil 1 were being made for the GameCube. The remake specifically became ground to test game assets from...
Wait, huh? He said Resident Evil 0 was for the 64 disc drive? Huh? Because everywhere else it said that it was just going to be for the Nintendo 64 before they carried it to GameCube. Huh. Interesting.
From Resident Evil 4 on, eventually on September 13, 2001, Shinji Mikami held a press conference where he announced that the Resident Evil numbered series was now to be made exclusive to the GameCube, with ports of Resident Evil 2, 3, and Code Veronica to follow. With such a strong tie to Nintendo now, Capcom doubled down on Mikami's push for the GameCube support by announcing the Capcom 5 deal. This was a deal that would make 5 Capcom games exclusive to the GameCube. In addition to Resident Evil 4, these included Beautiful Joe, Dead Phoenix, Piano 3, and Killer 7. In fact, Shinji Mikami was so confident about keeping the series exclusive to the GameCube that in an interview in 2002, he literally stated that Resident Evil 4 will definitely release only on the GameCube. If it comes out to another console, I will cut my head off. But as the team...
And yeah, which we all know he was bluffing because, one, not only is he still alive, obviously, but here we are. Resident Evil 4 is on almost every console out there now, not counting the remake. And yeah, despite that it came out in 2005, there are many people, including my generation or younger, that play it because of its re-releases on modern systems. Which, that's cool that younger generations get to still experience this game. And even more such with the new remake that came out.
The team continued with developing what many dub as the castle build. Problems were coming up with the star of the game, the Black Fog enemy. Being that it was a mass of floating tentacles, it was too much for the GameCube to handle. In a scramble to find a workaround, they devised to change the story entirely once again. This time, to one featuring Leon entering hallucinations and encountering enemies through a side effect of his mutation. This would lead into the next build of the game, Hallucination. And if you've been enjoying this video so far, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to further support us and keep creating new videos. The castle build was now being scrapped, with the script in fact being given to another Capcom production team that utilized it to make the game called Haunting Ground, a spin-off entry of the Clock Tower series, the second game that spawned from Resident Evil 4's development. In place of Sugimura, Resident Evil 3's writer Yasuhisa Kawamura stepped in to write the next take of this game, with inspiration taken from the film Lost Souls, which featured hallucination upon entering a restroom and having the room changed drastically. Hallucinations were to take the place of the Black Fog BOW this time around. In this case, much like the previous build, Leon was still infected with a virus, but the effects are what lead to Leon seeing the hallucination. With these early story ideas in mind, 2003 kicked off with the Hallucination build. The story would still appear to take place in a castle-like structure, which may be the Spencer estate. During exploration, hallucinations would suddenly spring up, which would tint the room in a blue fog, an inspiration taken from John Carpenter's The Fog. In the state of hallucination, the room would warp and lead to monsters and paranormal beings to be seen and encountered. These include everything from killer dolls, a knight with an axe, and even a ghost with a hooked arm.
In which the knight with the axe got carried over to the final game for those quick time events of those knights of armor swinging the axes at you.
Which popularly has given this the band name of Hookman. The interesting part is that this build used the traditional fixed camera angles when simply exploring, but switched to an over-the-shoulder angle when aiming your gun. However, another round of technical problems came up with this build. In order to quickly switch between a regular room and a hallucinated version of the room, as both were in fact two separately designed rooms, both had to be loaded at once. This was made with the idea of using up all of the GameCube's RAM. But what wasn't factored in were the enemies. At most, they were able to load in only one enemy, something the demo alone showed far more of. Therefore, this was another build that had to be scrapped by late 2003. With many of these fresh ideas failing for either being too technically demanding or outright different, the team started to look back to the past, back to using zombies again. Up to this point, zombies were nowhere to be seen, as it was just purely wild BOWs or even ghosts. But this was an idea that Shinji Mikami despised. He felt that zombies were becoming too boring for the established fanbase at this point. And you know what? He may have been right. During development up to then, the Resident Evil 1 remake was released on the GameCube and met with critical success. but commercially, it was an absolute failure, becoming the worst-selling game in the franchise to date. Matters only grew worse
Wow.
as Resident Evil 0 sold even worse. While some may blame the exclusivity to the GameCube, a console with a small install base as a reason, to Shinji Mikami, this was evidence enough that the series was growing stagnant and losing its audience due to the repetition of zombies. This, as such, led to Shinji Mikami once again hitting the brakes and restarting development. While not much more is known about the build, there was one crucial enemy made for this build that would impact development later, called the Daba Man, which was in fact a non-zombie human enemy. Daba, which means packers, might have meant that these humans were carrying something, whether it be a virus or maybe even a parasite, something that is sinister.
And yep, he's referring to the Ganado.
While up to this point Resident Evil 4 had gone through several iterations, many concrete ideas had been gathered together. In fact, 2 solid games even spawned from it, one of which grew into a massively loved franchise that in fact may have influenced the start of another much loved franchise down the road, but together with these ideas snowballing together and the drive to truly shake up the franchise, the real development was just about to start on what was to become one of the best games of the franchise yet. Next time, we shall conclude the 2-part special on the history and unused content of Resident Evil 4, with looking at the development of the final build and the horde of cut elements from it, from characters, weapons, and even designs that would be used in future remakes. So hit the subscribe button from Plenty.
Okay. So, that was the reaction. If you guys enjoyed, consider leaving a like, leaving a positive comment, and even consider subscribing if you wish. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. Justin the Ninja out.